So this is going to be the Rare Book equivalent of one of those big surprise videos on YouTube where you open up a toy and all the kids go crazy for all the slime. I got an email that was sent to me with some law books from Springfield, and they looked like they had the signature of Abraham Lincoln in them. I'm a little bit suspicious because that's too coincidental, but sure enough, the woman kindly sent them on approval. I have not looked at them yet. They're sitting here in the box, and I'm going to open them up to see exactly what's inside. It's always like Christmas in the rare book business when you get to open something new. So let's take a look. Take a little time quickly to open these. Nicely packed. Whoa, that is bigger than I expected. I thought they were going to be small law books. We're going to check out what they are. Oh, it's some sort of, even cooler, a case. Well, I don't think that's from the 19th century. Now, how do I open this thing? Well sealed here. Let's try and use a key. That is really jammed. Whoa. Get some sort of plier for that. Easier than I thought. It's broken, but I can just fit my thumb in there. There we go. I'll open it up for the camera first. There are the law books. That's so cool. Very nicely packed. Oh my gosh. Just look at that. Obviously, whether these turn out to be owned by Lincoln or not, somebody really treasured those because they packed them so carefully. So at least somebody believed they were owned by Lincoln. So we have, let's see here, no date on this one. Let's turn it to the camera here, and let's see if we have a date. Part 2, 1856. So Statutes of Illinois. So it looks good so far because Lincoln was certainly a prairie lawyer still in the 1850s. And I'm looking here for some signatures. It says Lincoln, and it's a little bit hard to read. I'm going to have to go back. 1856, Chicago. So the title page is unfortunately quite damaged. We only can see the bottom here. Any other signatures? I wonder what she sent by email because I don't see that signature yet. Maybe it's in this volume somewhere. Volume 1, Part 1856. Okay, here we go. Signature of Abraham Lincoln in Springfield, presented by W.S. Hurt. So right off the bat, that isn't an old handwriting, but it doesn't strike me immediately as a Lincoln signature that I'm familiar with, which is a very identifiable signature. So it is, I guess, three possibilities. One, of course, it could be a Lincoln signature I'm unfamiliar with. Maybe I'm more used to his presidential signatures. I'm going to have to check the ones from the 1850s. Two, it certainly could be a forgery. Even though it's in an old hand, there were certainly very accomplished forgers of Lincoln. He was such a famous and beloved president, and his autograph was worth a lot of money even a long time ago. Joseph Cozy is one of the great American forgers that was arrested in the 1930s, for selling a Lincoln forgery. And he was very talented. Charles Hamilton had a book of famous fakes and forgeries, which I read growing up, so I was made aware of the number of forgeries that exist in many hands. And I suppose there's a third possibility, of course, that these belonged to Lincoln's law office, but were inscribed by, a worker shelving the book, a secretary, something like that. So They could possibly belong to him, but not necessarily in his hand. So it's going to take a little bit of investigation, and I'm going to run to my computer and start doing that right now. So I'm looking for any evidence I can start investigating these. We're going to look at the Lincoln and Herndon write-up. We've got something that says presented by W.S. Hurt. In this volume, we've got that funny slip of paper with some information about Lincoln forming his law partnership with Lincoln and Herndon. And so obviously somebody invested time in researching this, where they couldn't do a touch of the button on Google. They had to start doing some biographical checking. We have an odd signature across here, also from Springfield. It says J.C. Roberts with a double B. J.C. Roberts. And I'm going to look at this other volume. And again, we have the Lincoln and Herndon inscribed here. So I started doing some very fast checking. I'm starting to get very interested in what's going on here. Let's see here. First of all, it doesn't look exactly like Lincoln's signature. I'm used to his signature. I checked some from the 1850s. I think we can rule that out. The ink, the flow of the ink doesn't look 100% correct. The shape of the letters, the standard things you use when identifying a signature for authenticity. So I would say that it's not in Lincoln's hand, but that is not necessarily all bad. The question is this a forgery by a well-known forger, possibility, or is this a book that actually came from his law library, not necessarily signed by him? I was wondering, first of all, where are Lincoln's law books? I started to look up an article right away here, and it's discussing the Lincoln Presidential Library, which recently acquired a book from Lincoln's library. It was called A Treatise on the Laws of Evidence. And the book is signed by Lincoln and Herndon, just like our book. So that's exciting right away. That's his law partner, William Herndon. It says, Lincoln and Herndon, partners for 17 years, had more than 120 thick law and statute books in their library. The firm eventually became Herndon and Orendorff, which closed in 1909. Afterward, many of the firm's law books were sold. So that's really fascinating, because in 1909, it's hard to even imagine, books that belonged to Lincoln's law office were sold and dispersed. So it doesn't necessarily strain credulity that this could be one of the books that were dispersed in 1909. Now I want to compare. I was looking up, wondering whether Herndon, his law partner, inscribed the books. Herndon was an interesting fellow. It says here, he entered the law office of Lincoln and Logan after having been admitted to the bar for 2 years. Then the partnership was dissolved, and he formed a partnership which existed until Lincoln's death in 1865. And then he became his biographer, where he wrote Herndon's Lincoln, The True Story of a Great Life, in 1889. So they do give some pictures of a signature and inscribed book by Herndon, which was sold, I don't know if that was sold on eBay or something. I'm looking at WorthPoint, which often catalogs some of eBay's things. And I'm going to look just to see very quickly if the signatures match here. Well, it's not clear, at least in this. Could well be, but it's not 100% clear. I'm going to have to, the shape of the letters. I mean, this is a singular example of his signature. Actually, there's 2 examples here. It's similar ink. I'm just looking, but the H doesn't look exact. Well, it's a possibility, but it's not for sure. I'm going to just check the other volume to see if the signature is any different there. And again, my initial feeling is, Well, that is not so far off, this one. Although the shape of the H does not look perfectly correct. We have to investigate some more samples of Herndon's signature to see if that is one of the books. I'm just going to check that other name that was inside, J.C. Roberts. So I'm just going to put in here J.C. Roberts. And let's put in Springfield, Lincoln. Let's see if we have any hits on who he is. J.C. Roberts with a double B. Here we go. Is it with a double B? Yes, he was a judge in Springfield. So it's quite interesting. When was he a judge? He appears to have been a judge in the teens and 20s from a short glance here. So he signed across here, did the Honorable J.C. Roberts purchase one of the books that were dispersed from Lincoln's library in 1909 and then sign his name in it? It's hard to know right now because today, of course, nobody would sign their name in a book that belonged to Lincoln, but 100-something years ago, provenance, while perhaps was appreciated, was not revered to the extent today that we would never intentionally add our names to a book with important provenance. And finally, we have this thing that says presented by W.S. Hurt. So presented, that's it. Somebody must have thought it's important to present these volumes. Let's see if we have any information on W.S. Hurt. Well, he died in 1888. I have a quick biographical mention here on the Scary's name site, Find a Grave. So he lived from 1821 to 1888, presuming that is the same W.S. Hurt. It's the only hit I have for the moment, but I will investigate some more. So we're left with an interesting conundrum here. I'm going to have to probably contact the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library to see other examples that they have of books that have come from Lincoln and Herndon's library, to see if I can match this book with one in the library there. That would certainly help authenticate it. So for now, it is a wonderful mystery whether I am holding the statutes of Illinois that belong to our great 16th president and former prairie lawyer who earned the term Honest Abe for his forthright legal work. So we'll have to leave it for another episode. I'll report back what I find out, whether these are indeed a treasure of national significance or a clever forgery of the 1920s or so. And I will get back, so don't forget to subscribe. That's the fun of the rare book business.